What's up, guys? It's Rick Ginn, and it is that time. We are on the Rick Ginn YouTube channel. And today we're talking all about cold calling, how to do it, how to talk to motivated sellers. And honestly, I'm going to simplify it for you. So most of you have this incredible fear of cold calling, and I get it. And I'm going to talk to you from my initial fears, and I'm going to show you what I've learned. And what we'll do is we'll just go by step by step. So if you've never done cold calling before, this is an excellent live stream for you, and you'll get a lot of value from it. So before we get into it, do me a favor. If you are brand new to this channel, all we do is talk about wholesaling. That's what we do. I'm not going to talk about anything else outside of that. Make sure if you get value from what I'm doing, and I do this 100% free from you, make sure you smash that like button. And as usual, make sure you are subscribed. Where is it? It's right. It's this one. There we go. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. It helps others just like you that are trying to get started in the wholesaling, and you want to find someone that's not going to rip you off, that still does wholesaling and is 100% authentic about it. This is the channel for you. My name is Rick, and I've been wholesaling for 21 years, and I'm somewhat addicted to this business. So I'd appreciate if you subscribe. It makes a tremendous difference to YouTube who subscribes to it, and you will get updated videos when they upload. And I only put special content on here because I can be a little bit of a wild child on here. So, and there is two ways to connect with me. You have the comment section. So what you do is just jump on there, introduce yourself, let us know what market you're in. I don't care if you've never done a wholesale deal or you're working on your 100th or your 1,000th deal. Let us know where you are. And this is a great place to meet other wholesalers. Maybe they're struggling like you. Maybe they're just getting started. Maybe there's a synergy you guys can put together and pair up. That would be great. And the other way is if you go in the comment section, you'll see a comment from Rick Ginn. That is the StreamYard link. And you can click on that and you can get in line for a one-on-one. I do a first come, first serve basis. And that's where I'm going to ask you to bring me solutions, and then we'll problem solve whatever we need to do. If you need me to get in your head and kind of work on that, we can do that. If you want to work on a deal, we can work on that. Whatever you want to do, wholesaling related, anything business related to help you be a better person, a better wholesaler, that's what I'm here for you. So you guys have two ways to connect with me. You have that. If you're brand new to wholesaling, what I'd like you to do is go over to freewholesaling.com. Yes, this is a course. People are like, oh crap, he's coming at me with a course. We've had this course out approaching 4 years now. It's 100% free. There's no credit card. I don't have anything to upsell you. It just teaches you not only how to get your first wholesale deal, how to make your first 100 grand. And while every other guru pounds you for thousands and thousands of dollars for this basic core information, what do me and Zach do? We just give it away for free for you. So go to freewholesaling.com if you want to get started. All we ask you is for your email and you're good to go. So let's get into today's topic, cold calling. Let's just call it cold calling 101 because that's what we're going to do. And honestly, a lot of you starting out, this is what you do. This is probably the number one way most people get started out in wholesaling. And I want you to understand why that is. Okay. So let's talk about what is cold calling. It's cold calling. Nobody's invented it. It's been around since whoever invented the phone, Alexander Graham Bell. And ever since there's been a phone, there's been cold calling. So it's over 100-year-old craft. Yes, it's gotten more sophisticated, but I'm here to tell you it's been here forever. And not only does it work in wholesaling, it works in every type of business known to mankind. Honestly, I don't know a business where they don't use cold calling. So this is a skill set that is a common practice. And if you don't use it in wholesaling, you're really missing out. So cold calling is just the art of basically calling people you don't absolutely know. That's where the word cold comes in. And what you're trying to do is connect with them to see if they have interest in selling their house. Easier said than done. And I'm going to be honest with you. For the record, I avoided cold calling my first 12 years of wholesaling. Why? Because I had a lot of success doing other ways, and I did door-to-door sales. And honestly, I promise you, door-to-door is much harder than cold calling, especially in today's market. But the reality is Nobody ever really taught me the skill set, and I did it organically. I would take leads and I would call, but I never did it as a ginormous business part. Honestly, until my son really deep dived into it and added it to our business, I didn't do it. Now, I've learned a lot. I've had 8 years experience now deep diving cold calling, and I'm here to tell you, I'm going to share the highs and the lows with you. But cold calling, everybody asks me, Rick, why do people want to cold call? Number one, it is flat out the fastest, most efficient way to connect with motivated sellers. End of story. There is no other better way to do it. I don't know how else to tell you. Look on paper and go, okay, how can I talk to 500 people without leaving my home office, whatever you want to call it, and then just find out the ones that want to work with me. Try getting in your car, try sending that many emails, try to go door knocking. Hands down, from an efficiency standpoint, cold calling is king. There's only one other method that's ever superseded it, and by now it's pretty much outlawed in most states. That was ringless voicemail, RVM, but that was a form of cold calling, and it's mostly been outlawed. And if it hasn't been outlawed in your state, I promise you it's coming soon. So I'm not going to teach that method. So why do cold calling? Hands down, the fastest way. If you got in your car and tried to meet with every motivated seller on a list, you might bang out 30 or 40, and you're probably only talking to 10 people total. And in 10 people, a 15-minute call, you just do the math on it. Like, you'll run out of time. So on paper is the perfect, most efficient, most targeted way to comb through as many leads as humanly possible. Now, I never said it was easy. I have never, ever said it was easy, but you need to understand why it is so popular. Number two, if you don't have any money, or you have very, very little money, cold calling is going to be your way to do it. Like, how else are you going to do it? If you don't have a car, you don't have gas money, you might have to spend a little bit of money. We'll get into the mechanics of how that works, but you can technically skip trace any lead's phone number, even a driving for dollars list, get the phone number and call on your cell phone. The only requirement, heck, you don't even need a cell phone. I'm going to go through and show you why. So if you're flat out broke, this is probably the most popular method. And honestly, the number one question I always get on cold calling is, Rick, how many calls do I have to make before I get a deal? And I'm here to tell you right now, if you have to ask me that question, you're starting off in a really bad position, period. We all want to know, and we all want to know how to do it. But the reality is that is not a question. The question is, what's your fortitude? What's your conviction? What's your belief to actually get you through cold calling? Tell me what that is, and I'll tell you how long you'll last in it. But we'll try it out. So cold calling alone will not get you a deal. And this is where a lot of people miss it. The problem with cold calling is, who are you going to cold call? Who do I cold call, Rick? I already know I need to get motivated sellers, right? That's a given. So how do I get motivated sellers? Number one, you don't call on the MLS. Anyone who teaches you to call on MLS, I promise you they have a course to sell you on top of it. There are not motivated sellers on MLS. There is a few exceptions on MLS, but for the most part, if you call 200 people on MLS, you're going to get 199 pissed off people at you. Why? Because they listed it with a realtor. Why? To get absolutely full value. And when you come in with your 30 to 40 cents on the dollar, whatever it is, 50, 60 cents, you want to know why you're laughed out? Because you're fishing in the wrong pond. So rule number one, all cold calling should be targeted around off-market deals. I cannot be any clear about it. If you cold call for on-market deals, it's painful. It doesn't mean it's doable. It's just painful. It's the truth. Why? Because we've done it endlessly. Honestly, you'll run out of time and money before you find enough deals to make that profitable. It's the truth. So cold calling is not good enough by itself. You have to focus on the best list to cold call. So this live stream specifically is only going to target the list where you're going to get the most traction. So I'm going to give you what works best in our business and what works best all around the country in virtual markets me and Zach do, and then all the markets I work with people in wholesaling. So remember, I got 21 years experience. I know what I'm talking about this. I don't follow fads. I will follow a trend, but trends only last so long. So understand that. So there's been a big push to get as much data as you can and cold call people over the last 5-6 years. Guys, that trend is over. It's a fad. It's been abused and it doesn't work anymore. If you think you can get 30 to 50,000 leads, skip trace them at an affordable amount, and then pay someone to sit there 3 to 5 cold callers, cold call all day and make a profit with no experience, I got a lot of stuff to sell you. The reality is that is not a real business plan. And that only about 1% of the people will ever succeed with that plan. It's the truth. I've watched more people fail with that plan than succeed. That's why you don't see these seminars anymore about these mass data points, because it's been abused, it's been oversold, and it's not really profitable because the cost of the data and the staff is going to outweigh your profitability. You've got to get much more lean lists, much more high motivated lists, much more niche lists. So let's go through the best list to do. As usual, most of the lists I'm going to teach you are going to be associated with government lists. These are lists that are derived through some sort of court action, county action, or city action. And the reason why they work is because the motivation is there. People do not like to get notifications when a property's in foreclosure, when they're on an eviction list or anything like that, and you need to know that going into it. So what I'm going to do is do them by order of importance. And you should heed the warning of how I post these because I kind of do them in order of importance. Now, some of you guys will have a little bit different order than me. That's okay. That's fine. But I want you to understand, notice if a list is not up here, it means it's not the best list for cold calling. Guys, I could probably rattle off 35 lists. I'm only going to nail this down to, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because when you're trying to get your first deal and you're trying to get success, you need to go to the highest probability list. Now, you're going to notice I don't put Zillow FSBOs on here because it is not a high priority list. There are deals in there and they are off market, kind of off market. They're semi on market because it's on Zillow. But the reality is they typically want full price. This list requires a lot of quantity. So I didn't put it on there. So let's talk with the most popular list. Hands down, the best list you could do for cold calling is code violations. I don't care what you say. I've been doing this long enough. This is simply when a city tags a property because either it is not in compliance, usually with the landscaping, its appearance, deferred maintenance, blue tarpaulin roof, maybe the windows are boarded up. And guys, I know I sound like a broken record on this, but the reason I harp on it is because it works. Remember, I've been doing wholesaling for 21 years. I'm not a guy who's going to teach you the latest fad and the latest trend. I'm not going to teach you about cryptocurrency, any of that crap. I'm going to tell you what works in wholesaling. And I never said I'm going to give you the easiest route. I'm going to give you the most profitable and most effective route. Doesn't mean you got to work. You're going to have to work on it. Now, code violations, how do you get it? Just go down typically to your city. And sometimes they have a county list depending on the size. And then basically it's going to be right next to the building permits, some sort of building department. And then you're going to have code enforcement. Sometimes the police department is actually connected to this building. If you don't have like a county sheriff, this is where you would find it. Now, I never said this list is easy to get. Even when I went after this list back in 2003, I had to bribe people in it. What do I mean by bribe him? I had to give them a dozen donuts. And I'm being honest, I had a few of the donuts myself too. But you actually have to overcome some resistance with all these lists. So I don't bore you with details on everyone. To overcome resistance, you have to be persistent, and it takes time. Now, you're much better at getting any of these lists in person as opposed to getting it virtually. That's just the truth. It doesn't mean you can't get it virtually, but it usually takes a little bit more effort. And remember, if you go out and chase all 5 or 6 of these lists and you get a couple, you're way ahead of the curve. And I want you to understand this. I never told people they would bat 100% when they go around chasing this list. I want you to understand the whole thing. So, okay, let's keep going. Remember, I'm doing this in order of importance. If you were going to put a cold calling campaign together right now and you wanted to call tonight, This is the order of the list. Now, you might have to go chase some of these lists. And it doesn't mean you don't call on any of the other lists. I'm just giving you my opinion through my business of what works in our local market and virtual markets. The second one, obviously, if you're local, it makes a huge difference. Driving for dollars. These are typically the motivations. It's already worn on the side of the building. And for the record, a lot of your driving for dollar leads will correlate with your code violation leads. Now, code violation leads are like cheating driving for dollars. And for that reason's why I put it above it, because if you can get that list without putting in that effort and the gas in your car, you have a huge advantage. Plus, you already know the city's already contacting them. And once they get that nasty red letter and that posting on their door, it's nerve-wracking. Listen, guys, people don't purposely, for the most part, there's like a 1% that do. People purposely do not want to be on the code violation list. It's not fun. It's not rewarding to be threatened by the city to go in front of a special board and have a lien put on your house. Code violations on average, it's about $100 a day once they enforce it. And some of them have very little limits. I've seen them go as high as $30,000, $40,000. So driving for dollars is like finding a code violation before it actually happens. And I want you to understand that. It's pretty cool. And it actually gives you an upper hand advantage. Now, driving for dollars, when you find those types, they eventually turn in the code violation. So whoever catches them first and can build rapport with the motivated seller, they're most likely he or she's going to win. So code violations, driving for dollars. Batting in third, not quite cleanup, but getting close to it. Evictions. I like evictions because they're actual lawsuits. And you know how I talk about the resistance to get these lists, evictions? You should have zero. You know why? Because it's a public lawsuit. So basically, when you go after a tenant for an eviction, and basically they didn't pay the rent or they destroyed the place or they won't leave the place voluntarily, you enter into a lawsuit for possession of the property. And you're looking for a court ruling. Most tenants do not respond to these. And they typically got 20 or 30 days, depending on which state you're in. Florida's crazy. It's pretty easy to get people out. But if your states like California and New York, evictions take like forever. And for that reason alone, they're very, very motivating. The reason why I like evictions is if you have the right landlord, and here's the difference with evictions. If they have like 50 plus properties or 100 properties, I typically don't waste my time on those types of evictions. Why? They're professional landlords. They are not motivated to get rid of the property. Now, find me the person that's got 1, 2, or maybe even 3 rental properties. That's the max. Those people got into real estate because they went to someone's stupid seminar and they said, listen, you can buy real estate. And here's the really cool part. You can even pay retail for it. And then your tenants pay off the loan. They pay off the carrying cost. And then in 10 or 12 years, if you're disciplined, you're going to have everything paid off. And then the house goes up and doubles in value. And then you get appreciation, you get the tax write-off, and your tenants pay for everything. Guys, I'm here to tell you, theoretically, it sounds perfect. Okay, I bought into this. This is what sucked me into real estate in Asia. The reality of it is nowhere even close to how I said it. Tenants will beat up the property. If you don't have good landlord skills, documentation, take pictures, do proper check-ins, discipline to keep a separate checking account, set up an LLC, get legal advice, get the right insurance protections. Most landlords don't have the right insurance protections. You're probably going to wind up getting sued in the long run. So I've been sued multiple times as a landlord. I'm actually one of the worst landlords you'll ever meet because landlording is not my specialty. So whatever landlording I do right now, I have a manager and they manage it. Honestly, I'm too nice to people and I get in trouble on that. And at one point I had up to 30 properties and I sold them all because I made much more money wholesaling. Now I keep specialty properties that make a lot of sense for me and I hand pick and keep those. I'm not looking just to collect rentals because there is a huge tax for rentals and most people will not tell you about this. So the reason I'm telling you this is when they put it up for eviction, the property is typically vacant, it's typically distressed, it typically needs repairs. And if that landlord's ever going to make a decision to sell, it's right there. And when someone buys a property and they had this dream and then the reality hits them and their expectations didn't meet the reality, they are really eager to sell. And some are more eager than others. And it's one of my favorite ones. Just avoid the professional landlords. They're a pain in the butt and they have no interest other than wasting your time. So, and then on a lot of evictions, this is for the newbies out there. In a lot of states, even like Michigan, on the bottom of the complaint, they put the owner's cell phone number on there. So you can actually skip tracing on this. A lot of them in Florida, it's like hit or miss, but there's a lot of states where they put that information right on the lawsuit on the front page. So we go crazy in Michigan with this stuff. It's really good stuff. Now, the next one, tax delinquencies. These are people that have not paid their real estate taxes. And eventually, if they do not take the proper action by getting the debt paid, they will lose the house to a regular auction. So as time goes on, the motivating factor goes through the roof. And remember, in most states, the homeowner owns the property until it is sold at auction. So it's a lot of people think, well, I'll go to a tax deed. I'll go to it. So there's a tax certificate sale, which basically is financing for someone to get a interest payment. So if I owe $2,000 in tax and I go to a tax certificate sale, I pay $2,000 and then we bid the interest rate on it. And it usually starts at like 18, 19%, and it'll go as low as 1%. So if it got bid down to like 10%, then that's basically theoretically my investment. I don't own the property. I just own the lien. And a lot of people think, well, that's a secret way to buy properties. It's not. I'm just telling you, the real crappy properties are the ones that sell at auction because nobody wants them. Either they're like little unbuildable lots, or the property's historical, or it's a vacant piece of land. And a lot of those properties wind up being foreclosed and owned by the city. So if you think you're just going to buy like tax certificates or do like, if you, worst case, you go to a tax deed sale, that's basically like a regular foreclosure. You're bidding on properties that nobody else wants. So you better heed it. So unless you have insider information, I wouldn't touch it. Tax delinquencies, the best way to invest is to contact directly the homeowner and try to work with them. If they can't pay the taxes, odds are they can't afford the property and they're going to have to move on. The idea is you give them dignity. Hopefully they can get some money to walk out of it. And some of these properties are free and clear. They're crazy if they don't solve this situation. You got to deal with a lot of drama, but it works really well. I've tried every which way tax delinquency. The only way is to skip trace them and cold call them. And then the last two are going to be basically specialty lists. So fire damage properties, it's real simple. Someone's going to create a course on this. I promise you. I apologize up front for it, but a fire damage property is pretty straightforward. Go to your local fire department, kill them with kindness. Don't bring them beer or anything like that, but bring them some sweet treats, cookies, donuts. They'll never turn it down. Hopefully these are like real fit people. And then bribe them into giving you this list, but it should be public information anyways. You just want a list of all the fire damaged properties because you want to help people out. That's all you ask for. So there could be multiple fire departments within there's one in the city, there's one in the county. Access them all. Just do not be pushy with these people because they do a job most people don't have the capacity to do, including myself. So the next one, water shutoffs. And here's the key to water shutoffs. You have to go to a public utility system. If it's private, odds are you aren't going to get it. Full disclosure, it's one of the most challenging lists to get. Rick, why do I want to do water shutoff? What the hell does water shutoff have to do with wholesaling? Listen, if the water gets shut off, there's probably financial duress and the property most likely gets sold. If there's no water running, there's no toilets running, there's no showers running, it's hard. You can't do your wash. What are you going to do? So it makes sense. Not an easy list to get. And if you get it, it's absolutely liquid gold. So let's move on to the real importance of this, how to make a cold call. And I'm here to tell you, a lot of people screw this part of it up, and I don't know why. But before we get into it, let's talk about the mechanics, any type of software you need for it. So I'm going to put up the most devastating software, and I could charge you $5,000 for it. But you know me, I'm just going to tell you the way it is. This is how most people start out that are on a limited to what I call no budget. You ready? Google Voice. It's free. And here's the crazy part is you don't even have to have a cell phone. You can actually do it from your computer. You can actually click the buttons, set up a Google Voice account, and make the call from your computer. Now, the only thing I advise you, if you do the Google Voice, get rid of that ridiculous Google Voice announcement on there. You have the option to remove that. Make sure you check that box and remove it, because if your sellers hear that, they're going to assume you're a scam artist. So I don't teach you how to be a scam artist. I don't teach any of that stuff. I teach you how to be a very good wholesaler. And if you have a good, this is Google Voice. Let me wait while your number's being connected, so you can eliminate that. It makes a huge difference. Now, that's what we call the hustle muscle. That means you're doing it for, like, I don't have a lot of money, Rick. I have to make this work. You're going to have to go this route. I don't know what else to tell you. Or you can make it directly from your cell phone. But remember, I'm not a big advocate of giving out your personal cell phone, because it will create problems for you, because there's some people that get pissed off when you call them. So here's what most people wind up doing when they're really serious about cold calling. And I said, this is going to run you about $100 a month on average, but it is what it is. And when you try to call thousands of people, dialing them at one by one, there is a limitation of how much time you can actually go through and call. So the paid way is a triple line dialer, and your options on that is going to be Mojo. It is what it is. To me, it's the most popular, and it was actually meant for realtors, but it works pretty well for wholesalers, and it's got a CRM built into it. But basically, you're like, what the hell? Why would I call 3 people at the same time? It's much more efficient. So the reality is, when you call 3 people at a time, only one usually connects, and the other 2 you can send a voicemail or make it auto dial and put it back in your rotation. It's extremely efficient. The reality is, guys, when you do these cold calls, if I had 50 people I was going to call just on, say, like my cell phone, I dial 50, I'm probably going to talk to like 5 or 6. Maybe 10 or 12 if, like, you hit the right time. Maybe if you hit them in the evening. That's the truth. So that's why a triple dialer is so effective, because it's a better use of time. I get it. It costs like $100 to do it, but it is what it is. Now, there's other ones. There's the Zen Caller, Zen Dialer, whatever. There's a million softwares out there. Don't go broke doing it. Mojo will cover most of what you want to do with it. But if you want to get through a large volume, which is what it's going to take when you start out at wholesaling, there's only so much damage you can do with a Google Voice. And it's just the truth. You guys need to know it going into it. And for that reason, if cold calling is going to be your only strategy, and like you're all in on it, you might want to consider the cold caller. But I'm sorry, the triple line dialer. It's extremely efficient. And there's some real cool techniques you can learn how to do it. If you want to learn more how to do it, we do it over at freewholesaling.com. But that's it, guys. So now you've dedicated to doing your cold calls. You understand the right lists to attack. And by the way, you can add much more lists to it. I'm telling you, if you had to, like, hey, Rick, you can only pick 3 lists. I just gave you my top 3, and then I gave you 3 behind it. Doesn't mean you can't do Zillow, Fizbos, and all the other stuff you do. I'm just telling you, these are the lists I would start with, because I want the highest probability as humanly possible. Because the reality is, most of you guys aren't used to talking to motivated sellers, and this is new to you. And this is the best way to get it in, is high repetition, high volume. And so I'm here to tell you, now we're going to talk about the hardest part of cold calling. And this is what kept me out of it for a while. And what you understand is, if it scares you, you're in the right place. So if you're not getting uncomfortable and doing something you never did in your previous life, you're in the right place. So it means you want to engage it. Nobody's going to physically hurt you in a cold call. I promise you. I guarantee you this. Can they harass you? Yeah, just hang up on them. And if you get upset when people call you names, get over it. Or just hop on the one-on-ones with me, and I'll call you names for 10 minutes and see if you can handle it. I'm just telling you, it's the truth, guys. You have to deal with it. You should never let your attitude, your how you deal with your family based on how the cold calls went. You just have to, when it's over, detach from it, move it. Sometimes it's phenomenal. Sometimes it sucks. But the person who is extremely consistent in going through it and being disciplined will get the most traction. Now, well, Rick, how do I pick up the phone and do it? Once again, I'm just going to hit you in the face here. I do not have a fancy formula. You didn't pay me a $5,000 course, so I'm not going to sit here and massage you to try to get through the 30-day expiration on a refund policy on your credit card. I'm just going to tell you the truth. I'm going to say, hey, John, pick up the phone, start smiling and dialing, and don't stop till you make X amount of calls. If you can't handle that, we probably can't work together. Now, a lot of you go like this. Here's my favorite part. This is what drives me nuts. But Rick, I started the cold call. I go, how many cold calls did you make this week? I don't know. I made like 20. Now, when you put the word like in front of 20, it means you made 8 or 9. And you didn't like the outcome of it and you stopped. And if you take that mentality approach with cold calling, I guarantee you failure. I'm looking for the person to go, listen, I'll rip through this 2,000 call list and I look forward to the 10,000, but after that. And I'm going to keep going until I get my deal. I don't care what you or Zach say, Rick. You give me that attitude, I know you'll be successful at cold calling. But if you you're horrified to get, here's the reality. You got to get through about 300 cold calls till the fear just drips away like a water off a duck's back. Because after a while, you learn they're not going to hurt you. It's not as bad. Honestly, the reality is your anxiety for cold calling is 10 times worse than the actual cold call. I promise you. I guarantee you it. And honestly, you're going to teach yourself a new discipline when you do something you're scared of, you fear of, because you don't know how it's going to come out. And until you get through this, you know you need to do it. And if you don't do it, you're going to fail. Okay? Do not sit here and talk to me and Zach and say, well, I made like 20 cold calls. That's ridiculous, guys. Like that's 10, 15 minutes of calls at best. And if that was your entire week's production, what the hell did you do the rest of the week? Okay. I get it. I did not start out cold calling. And honestly, if I was a smart guy, I would have just dealt with it head on. The reason I didn't cold call, for full transparent truth, I didn't like it. And it made me uncomfortable. And nobody had a system to really teach me. I know they've been doing it for 100 years. I should have figured, because if I cold call when I started in 2003, my God, I would have tripled my business overnight. So I just want you to understand, learn from my mistakes. And I let pride get in the way, and my ego took over. Remember, I always tell you guys, bury your ego, because your ego will take you out in wholesaling. So if I just set my ego aside and did what I was scared of, I could have tripled my business within a year or two just by cold calling. And by the way, nobody else was even cold calling back then. I would have hit it way out of the park. But I let my own anxiety and fear get in the way of it, and I want you to learn from it. Okay? I have no fear of doing anything now. But I'm just telling you, when I started out, especially the first few years, I was like, I only called like stream specific lists. So now you know you just got to pick up the dial. The phone won't eat you. And the worst case scenario, ready for this? You're going to get chewed out or you're going to get hung up on. Oh my God. And honestly, if somebody wants to hop on the live today and you want me to chew you out and hang up on you to prepare you, I got no problem doing that. It's just the truth, guys. They're not going to hurt you. And the sooner you get through it, the better cold caller you're going to be. Most of you guys are like, you have no problem talking to a stranger walking down the street, having a conversation with somebody at a coffee shop. But when it goes to put like financial money in your pocket, you guys avoid it like the plague. And I'm here to tell you, if you know exactly what you need to do, just deal with it head on. It's not the end of the world. You're not physically going to get hurt. Honestly, it's much more effective than door to door. And door to door, I'm here to tell you, I have been chased. I've been chased by dogs. I've had humans chase me. I've had really bad stuff happen to me. I had somebody throw a center block at me once before, and I still did it all in spite of this. Because you know why? Because I felt it was the most effective way. It's just the truth. I should have been cold calling. Learn from it. So we pick up the phone. We call Rick. What the hell do I do after that? It's real simple. 2 questions. Get these fancy scripts and all this crap out of your face, because everybody knows you're reading from a script. So ask yourself, can I ask 2 simple questions and can I memorize them? Okay. By the way, I don't want to hear if you're an introvert or an extrovert. It doesn't matter. The matters is, do you cold call or do you not? Nobody gives a crap if you're an introvert or an extrovert. Nobody cares. Guys, honestly, off camera stuff like that, I'm a pretty quiet guy. I got my downtime, I got my uptime, and it all has to be balanced out. So, two questions, real simple. The first one, you have to identify who's on the phone. Why? Because if you go through an entire spiel and you're talking to the wrong person, you're wasting time, and time is money, right? Now remember, if you read from a script, it's going to seem unauthentic. I'm okay with you having points spelled out. And I'm going to tell you how most people screw this up. Two questions. That's all you got. I've dealt with the best cold callers in the entire world. It always comes down to two questions. How you ask the question, completely up to you. In the beginning, I wouldn't wing it, but after a while, you'll figure out how to ad lib to it. Number one, we're going to identify it. Hey, are you the owner of 123 USA Main Street? I want to know I'm talking to the right person. If you're not, a lot of times other people pick up the phone. Sometimes it's a landline, sometimes it's a cell line. It doesn't matter. You have to understand that. Are you the person? Are you the owner? Yes. Now, half the time they'll say yes, half the other time no. By having them answer a simple yes question, you're moving in the right direction. Now, the next question is real simple. We have to identify if there's even a slight hint of motivation for what? To sell the property, right? So I need the owner of the property, and I need to know if they even have a slight interest in selling it. That's it. Because what you're doing right now, so you understand. So question number two. One, are you the owner of USA Main Street? Yes. Awesome. You have any interest in selling the property? Hey, John, you got any interest in selling that property? It's a pretty cool property. My partner drove by. We'd love to talk to you about it. That's it. All you are is question one, you're disqualifying. See, most of you try to think, you get these fancy scripts from these gurus that never ever cold call in their life. And then you try to put people through the qualifying process. In the beginning, you just disqualify. The reality is if you make 100 cold calls, 90 of them will not be qualified, period. So why spend time? There's no point in building a rapport if people have no motivation. You can build 4 hours of rapport, you're going nowhere on that. It's like meeting a realtor on MLS and telling them to take your 50 cents on the dollar offer. You're wasting your time. So the first two questions, are you the owner of XYZ Street? Yes. Excellent. Are you interested in selling the property? After that, you've got to go deep into building rapport and qualifying. Now, once you do the disqualifying, remember, if you talk to 100 sellers, 90 of them are not going to qualify for what we do. And I'm okay with that. You got to get rid of those 90 as fast as possible and deal with the 10 that want to talk to you. But a lot of you spend all your time trying to talk to the unqualified, disqualified, and you waste your time. Disqualifying with these two questions right off the bat. You can ask them their name in between. You should have their name anyways on the list, so you should be using the name. Once you disqualify, now you simply go into qualify. Okay? We teach you the MCTP. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go over to freewholesaling.com. I teach you all this for free, me and my Zach in our course. I only have so much time. I'm not going to teach you motivation, condition, timeline, and price. Okay? But a lot of you start out with MCTP before disqualifying. The key to cold calling is disqualifying people because a majority of the people are not going to qualify. So if you can cut and narrow and get rid of the 90% of the waste right off the bat, you'll do so much better cold calling. End of story. And I want you to understand that. Everybody understand that? You have to disqualify before you qualify in cold calling because you're reverse engineering it. The reality is if you try to qualify everybody with MCTP, you're not going to get through 20 or 30 phone calls in your like couple hour session. If you do it the other way, I've never told you building rapport with unqualified sellers is going to get you anywhere. It's the same problem. They're not qualified. So the key to cold calling success, you ready for this? Is consistency. Is the other part. So here's what a lot of you do is you get the guts to do it. You get a great list, and that's awesome. And then you cold call and you do it for a day or two or even a week. And then you go, I didn't get the result. I'm done. Dude, if I was going to told you it was going to be that easy, everybody would do it and you wouldn't have any type of competitive edge. It's going to be tough. You're going to have to get through it in the beginning. Most of you don't have the experience. You got the right attitude. You're smiling and dialing. It just takes time. And as you go through the journey, you gain the experience and you learn how to talk to people so much better that your ratios go up. Instead of calling 5,000 people, you can call 1,500 and get a deal. Now, don't use those numbers because the numbers are all over the board depending with your experience and what market you're in. So don't use that as a reference because if you rely on that, it's going to crush your expectations. So how do we become consistent? It's real simple. You have to schedule it. I'm all about the time blocks. So I like to take 2 hours, a maximum 3 hours to cold call because the human mind can only handle so much. Now, using the triple line dialer kind of automates some of the process for you. And you guys got to look at it like, and gals, if you go to work out or say you're going to go for a run or something like that, you have to get in a mindset and you have to put your armor on, your body armor. What's your armor? It's your conviction. It's like, hey, I'm not going to let anybody break my dream of becoming financially free and have freedom of my time. So you have to schedule it, guys. But like, don't think you can do 8 hours of cold calling. You probably could, but you're you're going to have some mental failures by doing that. So I like to do 2 hours of blocks, especially with a triple line dialer, because it's highly efficient and you can start looking at numbers. If you got to push it to 2.5 hours to 3 hours, that's fine. Please don't schedule 8 hours because you're going to burn out. And if you burn out, what's the point, right? Remember, I'm always teaching you to be a marathon wholesaler. The sprinters, they're all around you. They're everybody who's trying to sell you a get rich quick course through wholesaling. It doesn't work that way. It's all bull. No, I get in trouble with YouTube. It's BS, guys. I'm just telling you. It's up to you. So you have to schedule it. So those who are brutally serious about cold calling, you schedule. How do I schedule it? Go in your Google Calendar, 100% free, and block the times out and repeat it. And then you got to document and hold yourself accountable. Oh my God, Rick said I have to hold myself accountable. That's right. I'm not going to hold you accountable. Zach's not going to hold you accountable. We'll give you guidance. We'll give you feedback. But at the end of the day, no guru, no influencer, nobody's been doing this business 20, 30, 50 years. I don't care how long. At the end of the day, if you don't make yourself accountable, there's no way to succeed in any business you do. Because if you're going to lie, steal, and cheat from yourself, what are you going to do when you work with others? And that's the reality is. Once you can have a relationship and be brutally honest with yourself, you can solve any problem. You can make any amount of money you want. But if you're going to constantly switch the narrative to protect your own ego, and remember, once you're defending your ego, you're already at a huge disadvantage. You have to lose your ego. Guys, cold calling is not complicated. It's actually very straightforward. Most people just don't have the guts to do it. And the people that do it, they tiptoe into it. So I do like this cold plunge thing, and I hate it with a passion. I'm not gonna lie to you. And if you can relate, the water's like 40 some odd degrees. I've tried sticking my toes in. I've tried holding my breath. There's no other word, and it just sucks. But like once I get in and get immersed, if I can get past that first minute and a half, it's one of the best feelings in the world. And that's how I can relate cold calling. You people putting your toes in the water and making 10 or 20 calls, you're just feeding your ego. You're the same type of person that's going to go to the gym and go there for an hour and you use like 2 machines and you're on your phone the entire time. The reality is you have one purpose going to the gym is to make a better version of yourself. So you can be strong. If the body's strong, the mind's strong, and you can move around, you can help out sellers, you can help out your family and do everything. But if you're there for a social membership, just admit it to yourself, and I'm okay with it. But the cold plunge is probably the best analogy I can make because honestly, I've been doing it it's never even pleasant. I don't even know what to tell you, but you get a euphoric feeling because you push your body to do something that you didn't want to do. Honestly, I would take cold calling over the cold plunge. It's that difficult because it literally takes your breath away and stuff like that. So if you're not going to do cold calling, I need you guys all to go out and do an instant cold plunge. And I just realized the same word, cold calling, cold plunge. What an analogy. I think I'm just going to end it on that note there. So that is it on cold calling. Anybody wants to talk about cold calling today? remember, I'm talking about the simple mechanics. If you had to spell it out, I can give you an entire slide presentation on it. I just summed up 98% of the courses out there. And honestly, I think I gave more detail than a lot of the courses. At some point, you just got to do it. And I find when you pay these gurus big chunks of money, and then you go on your shows and you guys talk to them about it, they're like way too nice to you guys. I'm sorry. Just step up and get it done. Like, just do it. And at the end of the day, if you got scared calling, just admit it. I got scared. This is what freaked me out. How do I overcome it? And then we can have a real conversation. But if you want me to justify your 10 or 20 cold calls, you got the wrong dude. I ain't going to do it, man. You've got to do it. Okay. So, and here's the thing is, like, some of you just aren't meant for cold calling. Let's just be brutally honest. It's just the truth. It's okay. Then you're going to have to find other ways. You're going to have to step up driving for dollars. You're going to have to do reverse driving for dollars. You're going to have to step up and do mail. You're going to have to do door knocking. So I want you to look at the alternatives to cold calling, because sometimes it's painful. And a lot of you go, well, I'll just do SMS texting. You're kidding yourself, because SMS text, the goal is to convert them to the phone. And if you want to use it as a giant lead source, that's fine. SMS works fine with that. But remember, the goal of SMS is to convert them to a phone call. That's why cold calling is so efficient, guys, because it is a direct line. And if you can connect one, that's one of the fastest ways to get a deal with little to no money out of your pocket. Don't forget that. And that's just it I have on cold calling. So let me go through a couple questions here, and then we're going to jump on the lives. And nobody's commenting on my Dolphins, man. Like, come on. Listen, I do love wholesaling in my family much more than I'll ever love football. And here's how I look at football, guys. I root and have fun for my team, but at the end of the day, if they win or lose, it does not change my life. I did not go out on that field, and those guys have a specialty skill set that I think is amazing. But when I was younger, I was very dedicated to football. I wish I put that same passion in football I put in my business, because I would have been 10 years ahead of it. But anyways, my sons figured that out. We're both giant Dolphin fans. We enjoy it. So, okay. They are a seller or just. So here's a good one. And it's actually a very valid question. Javit asks, when you and Zach say contacts for KPIs, do you mean when a person picks up and confirms the seller, or just someone picks up? Now, you can break this one down. So as far as you want, in cold calling, you have to leave a little bit more detailed stats. Why? I don't want to overburden you with KPI, which it's just an acronym for key performance indicators, but you need to know if your lists are good. So if somebody answers the phone and go, that's my dad, he won't be home until 9 tonight, that means it's a good contact phone number, and you want to keep a running total on that. The next phase is, did you actually talk to dad, and was he qualified or disqualified? And you can decide to do it from there. But you need to know if you have good phone numbers, because every now and then you will get a bad list. And you will know quickly when you have a bad list. So if I call like 150 people and I can only get like one person, I know there's something wrong with the list. I'm not that bad of a cold caller. So awesome question. So you want to make sure you have a good phone number, and then you can designate the contact if it's qualified or disqualified. Hopefully that helps you with that. So, so Jack, if you want to learn more about how to get like the detailed correct text, go over to freewholesaling.com. It's a little bit more of a detailed explanation than I can, like, without eating up all the time on this, but freewholesaling.com, I put that all in there. So, great question here. What percentage of my deals are wholesale versus creative financing? 98%. I'm sorry. 90% of my deals are wholesaling. 7% are from properties I buy that are highly targeted, which means I didn't get them at a wholesale deal, but I have an extreme long-term play with them. And about 2 to 3% of mine are creative financing. Guys, I'm here to debunk this whole creative finance. I love creative financing. I think it's amazing. And I love it. But just because you have a creative financing deal doesn't mean it's good. And I find the new qualification for creative financing, did you do a deal or not? Just because you do the deal doesn't mean you make money. Stuff can go wrong in creative financing all the time. Notes can get called due. Your original seller becomes uncooperative and they don't want to help you out. Let's see. Property values can go down. Rents can crash. The property can catch fire. You could have a financial claim and get hit by a hurricane. There's a lot of stuff that can go bad. And a lot of the latest craze is creative financing for short-term rentals like Airbnb. Guys, I'm here to tell you, Airbnb's got major issues right now. And I'm a big time Airbnb customer. They are working on trying to ban it in most metro areas. And well, if they don't ban it, they're going to charge the same taxes they do on a hotel and require the same type of licensing. So creative financing, just because you get it, doesn't mean it's a good deal. And the reality is most of you don't know what a creative financing deal is till you learn to identify it. How do you do that? Go through a ton of wholesaling deals. And when someone goes, hey, listen, just take over my mortgage, and there's 50 grand inside the deal or something like that. That's my favorite. My favorite deal in the world is a wholesaling deal that has creative financing built into it. But guys, if you just want to do a deal because you took someone's creative financing course, it does not guarantee you success. And you're going to find most creative financing people that they're doing a ton of it with little experience. They're not going to know probably for 5 years if they made a great choice or not. So there's so many variables involved into it. Guys, a little story. I did creative financing deals. I started doing them in 05, 06. I collected like 5 or 7 of them. More than half of them I had to give back in 08, 09. Why? Because the market turned completely upside down. I never thought my wildest dreams I was way upside down on them and I had to resolve it. And I met with an attorney to resolve it and I learned the hard way. And guys, by the way, when you take over somebody else, if you do a subject to, you have to read the terms of that mortgage. And if you violate it, did you know in an FHA, if somebody literally bought that property within the last 3 months, you don't even have the legal right to take over the mortgage. You don't qualify, and you are basically technically committing fraud. So how do I know this? Trust me, I know it. And FHA says the homeowner needs to reside in there as a homeowner. The minute it switches to a rental, even if you own a property and you switch it from FHA, you could be at risk of a major violation on that mortgage, and it could be considered fraud. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not here to scare you. But the thing is, just because it is a creative financing deal does not mean it is a home run. And honestly, a lot of times, properties just don't work out in creative financing. Just because someone will do a creative finance deal you don't know if it's actually going to make money. The only way you understand it is you see a lot of deals. And so if you start out creative financing and you decide to skip wholesaling because you thought it was too hard, promise you, this market's going to teach you one way or the other. Trust me. I even did wholesaling. I did creative financing and I had the worst market happen in 100 years. I never in my wildest dreams did I think it'd work out that way. So good question. So let's jump on and do some lives here. And let me clear this. Okay, I see that. So let's jump on. Hopefully my volume is working okay. JD, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you
How
hear
you
me?
doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Good. What's going on, man? What can I help you out with?
So I have a couple of questions. So the one thing I have in trouble with is when to follow up with people, and I don't
What?
know if I should follow up with them or not.
Okay, so give me like a real life case scenario.
Well, they're not in, they say they're not interested at the moment, but
Uh-huh.
their property is like I see it needs a little bit of repairs. I'm not sure if I should follow up with them or not on that situation.
So one of the first qualifying things to decide your follow-up is where did that lead come from? What list did it come from?
Tired landlords.
So the list is everything, guys. So if I have, like for instance, if I have a code violation or a driving for dollars. And they say, listen, Rick, I'm just not interested at this time. The second qualifier of your follow-up is, did you pay for the data or did you go out and earn it? Same thing. And the second part of that, did you pay for any type of skip tracing with it? So tired landlords, I get, did you have to pay to skip trace it or did you get the number for free?
I had to pay to skip tracing.
So here's my rule. Once you pay for the skip tracing, unless you buy or they die, they stay on a list. Now, it doesn't mean you sit there and hammer them every week. You've got to decide the amount of repetitiveness you want to do it. And this is challenging. It took me probably 3 years to figure this part out. So you have a very valid question. In the beginning, you don't have a ton of leads. So someone like that, the minimum you would wait to even call them back would be 30 days. It'd be suicide to call them the next day or the next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 30 days is even a stretch. Then after 30 days, I go to 90 days. Then you do 180 days. And I will push a lot of people to 180 days. It means it's the lowest priority. I didn't get one warm signal and the guy's kind of an ass to me. Okay.
Right.
But you have to grab it. But once you pay for a phone number, I don't get rid of it. Why? Because I can put them in my SMS campaign. I might switch them over to a direct mail campaign. What's the two things that changed people's mind over time, JD?
I don't know. Motivation.
Time and circumstances.
Right.
So it happens in your life. It happens in everyone else's life. Guys, in 6 months, honestly, the last 6 months, in my wildest dreams, I couldn't predict half the stuff that's happened in my life. And if it happens to me, I know it's happening to everybody else. So once you pay for it, don't get rid of it unless it winds up being a bad phone number or anything like that, because you've already paid for the data and and every time you go back to do it, it gets a little bit cheaper to run that data other than the cost if you had to hire someone to do the cold call. So what you need to do is set up your follow-up. And the extreme urgent days is 30 days to 24 hours. Okay. Not a lot of people fit in that little qualification. And then once they say, well, I'm not interested at this time, they have to go to 30 days or below, between 30 and 180 days. And you just keep prioritizing people. So, and like our system, we color code it. And everything's from 24 hours to 180 days. And for the most part, most people are going to break down the 3 categories in there. From 24 hours to 14 days, those are like a really hot leads. And then like 14 to 30 is like, I don't know what to do in that. So here's the reality. You're better off hammering people more than taking your foot off the gas, but there is a fine line. Some people actually do need time and you need to figure out. Sometimes you'll screw it up, but here's my experience, JD. If I go, okay, she said she needs a month or 2 and I put it back 2 months and I didn't call her back in 2 weeks. She's like, oh man, I wish you called me. I sold that property a month ago. I'm like, and so, but I will tell you this, you will lose deals from people that actually needed the time and you were pushy about it. But here's the rule. You would get more deal. You're going to lose some deals that way, but you're going to get more deals from people just sitting on the sidelines. So what I would do is spell out your categories. And right now I would break it down from like immediate to 7 days. And then after that, it's 7 to like 30 days. And then like, honestly, between 30 and 90 days is you're just guessing. And then once 90 days or more, like they really weren't interested, showed no signs of motivation and wouldn't talk to me.
Right.
And then here's where you mark them dead. Okay. When they tell you to F off or don't ever call me again, I don't want to deal with you. Why go through the torture of calling people like that? Because you're not going to remember when you call them back. Now, at some point, JD, you're probably, once you get proficient and you get some deals on, you'll eventually hire someone to help you out with the cold calling. If you've already paid for the data, like don't throw it away.
Right.
Okay. And then plus you can use it for an SMS campaign. Just understand, when we do direct mail, like we rotate the list every 90 days because it's easier to just get a new list than to try to scrub the old one. I've done it because it cost me about $2,000 to scrub the old list. And honestly, why don't I just get a new one? So if I use like listrei.com or I use batch, I got 10,000 leads anyways. I refresh. It's just easier. Like
Right.
I don't have to think about it. I don't have to pay an employee for it. So all you need to do is on paper is just break down 3 different levels. And remember, the ones you're really anything 30 days to like tomorrow, that's where all your focus is. On the other ones is you're just setting up for the future in case time or circumstance change. And don't complicate it. Color code it, whatever you got to do it. What CRM do you use?
Podio.
Yeah, so you can color code it, you can break them down with it. The problem is when you have 7 different categories, it's like, when the hell do I call people? Like, what am I going to do here? And we have a special code for very difficult sellers, but we have their phone number. And like they'll have a special like tag with them. I'm not telling you to kind of go with that, but in the beginning, man, like you need as much data as humanly possible. So does that help you out?
Yes, it does. And
by the way, you will never get it perfect. I've been screwing around with this for 21 years. You're better off over pursuing than under pursuing people, period.
okay.
And then when you lose 1 or 2 because you pounded someone, go, Rick told me I'll get 3 deals and I'll lose 1. That's a net gain of 2. I'm okay with it.
Right.
Because here's what you're trying, honestly, in that list, you're trying to find the people that want to work now and the ones you need to like do later. And to me, you plant a seed and you don't have to pay for that data. But what you're really trying to do in the follow-up is all follow-ups are a progression, right? What is your goal every time you do a follow-up with a motivated seller or any seller?
To get an update, update about the property.
And either they're moving down the funnel or they need to get the hell out of it. Because you can't waste time calling the same people that have no motivation. And that's the problem. You want to get the maybes to turn into a yes or a no. And I'm okay with it either way. Now, if they go,
Right.
Listen, I absolutely don't want to sell my property now. I don't see anything changing for the next 3 to 6 months. I'm still not going to throw them away. And then I'll decode it otherwise because time and circumstance changes all the frickin' time. But what I want to do is that maybe I either want to turn it into a yes or a no, because if they stay a maybe for 6 months, I guarantee a realtor or another wholesaler will pick up that deal and you'll be screwed out of it. And that's the whole point of a follow-up. Am I making progress? Every lead you call, there should be a note in there if you're getting closer, further away, or you're getting closer with them. And that's the biggest thing I look up with my staff. Are we progressing leads or are they just sitting there? There's nothing worse when you see 90% of your leads sitting there stagnant.
All right.
And that's where I teach techniques to shock people, like just try to entertain them or like hit them in the mouth. Like, did I piss you off today? Like, I don't understand why you get like I don't understand what's going on here. And sometimes I just tell you they're having a bad day or something. But dude, follow-ups are a pain in the ass, dude. But I pursued somebody 4 years once. It's my longest one running. And I got one going on now 3 years plus. It's a multi-million-dollar property. I think I'll wind up getting it, but there is a payoff to it. But the worst case scenario as a follow-up is they sit in the maybe and screw you over forever. You're better off squeezing them into a no so you can put them at the back of the line so you can hopefully time and circumstance will change it.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
Okay. And I do have one more question. I did talk to Zach about it last night, but my computer died. Same thing with you.
Okay.
But I'm charging my computer now when I'm on the calls so I don't, just disappear. So we did talk about it, and it's about my dials and my contacts. It's just my contact rate was around 20% like last week, which I'm doing 25 dials an hour and doing 150 dials. And I was wondering what my contact rate should be with if it's a good list.
So the more niched out your list is, it should be a little bit better because the odds are. So once again, it's number one, making sure you're getting good data. And then everyone thinks, well, contact rate, it's a factor. There's so many factors that go into it. It's not just the data. It's what timer you're calling, what market you're calling from. All you want to do is try to progress it and look at your historic numbers, because I'm not going to be the best guy because I don't run that department at company. Zach does the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And I got to honestly, it changes so much from like, even like depending like what time of the year, it's like summers, like we have a difficult time connecting with people in the summer here in Florida. It's like because everybody's on vacation, the kids are out of school. So traditionally our numbers go down in the summer. And then like starting now all the way through like the early part of December, we do really well.
Right.
And I'd like to tell you, like, it's just like we're just incredible business people. We're not. Some of it's just seasonal and depending on what's going on. So all you could do is start to track your historic numbers and start to look at trends. And that's why you want to keep that data. The problem is, to be honest with you, me, Zach, or anyone's going, okay, this should be your number. Listen, if you're getting a 5% connection rate, you got a problem. Is 20% correct? No, I mean, 25 to 30 would be kind of the norm, but keep in mind, there's so many factors that go in, like it could just, and then once again, the number, like how many dials are we talking about? We talking about a couple hundred or like thousands?
Right.
And you have to look at all that data. So connect with Zach one more time to get like precision on it, because I don't run like that department. I could just tell you is if I had this conversation with 100 different people, it'd be 100 different numbers. And everyone goes, well, what's the industry standards? It's the same question as like, how many cold calls do I make to have to get a deal? I don't know. I've seen people do 50,000. I've seen people do 2. Like
Right.
there's no rhyme to the reason. I will tell you, you have to think of thousands to get deals. And people that think 20, 30, or 200 calls, which I don't think you do, they're the ones that are just looking for like the unicorn. You want to call a unicorn in like 5 or 10 calls? I do too. And if I could do that, it would be a different, it would be ridiculous. It wouldn't work. And if they did it, most people wouldn't do, if everybody was successful at wholesaling, we wouldn't have a business. So
Right.
look at your numbers and start stacking up the numbers and see if you can progress them, see if they go up or down. They should progress over time, but like sometimes seasonality will affect your numbers,
Okay.
period. So like I will tell you, during COVID, our connection rates doubled. Did we do something special? No, just people were stuck in their home. It was easy. So keep
Right.
that in mind, okay?
Okay.
You
Thank
got
you
it,
very
man.
much. All right, Rick. Have a great day.
Okay, man. See you. See? I love when people cold call. Gerardo, you there?
Hi, Rick.
Hey, man. How you
Nice.
doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Like,
What's going on, man? What can I help you out with?
yeah, so today I did like around 30 calls today.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been going good. Like something like it just feels like once you start like making these calls, like something just feels like it just changes in you. It's just like it just gets easier and easier. And when you say it, you're like you're not joking. In the beginning, it's like
It's
you're like
horrifying.
shivering in fear, and it's like and then you
Dude, it's
just
like
start
me
doing
calling
it,
my
and you're just
mother-in-law. Okay. I dread that call. Or she's watching, like, let it go. But I'm just telling you, the one thing I've learned in life, and I got to tell you, like being a wholesaler for 21 plus years and then teaching a lot of you guys, the biggest challenge we have in wholesaling is our mindset. It's never the wholesaling. I promise you. It's
yeah,
never the wholesaling.
yeah,
My first 2 years, although I did very good in wholesaling in my first 2 years because I was extremely committed, and I was a lot like when Zach started out, is I went for it altogether. But I will tell you, I tried to operate under my own mindset with the new rules of wholesaling, and that what's caused me the most anxiety. Honestly, guys, I would make a ton of money, and I actually felt guilty because I'd worked so hard to make that money. It'd take me a year to make that money. But the reality is the anxiety is so much worse than the actual event. Guys, how many times do you sit there and worry about crap that's never even probably going to happen to you? And then
yeah,
you spend months, if not years, exhausting mentally the worst case scenario, and it never freaking happens. Listen, if you're above ground today and you start from there, like, oh my God, I have this gift, cold calling's like a joke. And
yeah,
I let my old personality, which never worked for me, by the way, and I'm sorry, I love my parents dearly, but they programmed me wrong. They programmed me as an employee, go, be safe, be good. You guys know the drill. The reality is, if you truly want freedom, you can't follow that system. So I should have gone out cold calling, taking massive amounts of risk. But the reality is it took me years to deprogram it because nobody ever taught
Yeah.
me the skill set. So that's why I've created free wholesaling and teach you guys, you can do anything you want. And whatever's stopping you is just your previous belief system. All you have to do is let go of it. So if you're horrified of cold calling, just let it go. That was the old version of you. You're not hurting anyone. You're trying to actually help people out, and just do it. And so I find sometimes people go, well, I did 8 or 10 or 15 cold calls. And then they want to tell me about the experience, which is, that's the truth, right? That's what most people do. I just want to tell you, like it was, and people tell you it wasn't that bad, or they tell you it was the most horrifying thing they've ever been through. How you respond to it and react to it will define how you move forward in life, and especially in wholesaling.
Yes.
Story, guys. I'm just telling you, it's not, just stop doing what you did before. If you decided cold calling's all, go all in and just do the system and just dial. These people aren't going to hurt you. I tell you, it take guts. Go knock on 50 or 60 doors of people in foreclosure. I will show you some really pissed off people. And if you think they're angry on the phone, you should see them in person. But like, think about this. I thought it was better to knock on the door than to pick up a phone. How stupid is that? It's just my ego and my pride. And I want you to understand the gift you have of cold calling. It works really well. And if you do cold calling, you can easily do it in tandem with SMS texting because you already have the data. And remember, the goal of SMS is to convert them to the phone. So,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, sorry, no worries. So, I was gonna do exactly what you were really gonna say. You're like, you know how you do the cold call and then you explain what happens. So
Cold
yeah,
plunge is terrible, guys. I'm just telling you, you can't. If you stick your toe in a cold plunge, you'll never want to do it. You're like, are you kidding me? I don't even keep my drinks that cold. It takes everything in your body to because your body. Here's what's happening, guys. Here's what's happening when you cold call and you don't like it. Your body's trying to tell you this is going to be a painful experience. We don't want to do it. You're going to have bad emotions from it. And it's sending a signal up to your brain. And if you let your body take over, it means you don't have mind over body. It's body over mind. And if you do that, that means you only run on your unconscious programs. Okay. I'm going a step above wholesaling, but I'm just telling you, if you understand this, if you can find radical ways to do the things that scare you the most, your life will change immensely. I decided 3 years ago I was going to be a runner. I ain't the smallest guy in the world, but I tell you, running metaphors, like the metaphor for running, it allowed me to do what I hated the most. And that first mile, I literally thought I was going to throw up multiple times, and I get through it. Now I can rip 10, 11, 12 miles out. I don't even think about it. And honestly, I probably feared running more than cold calling in my entire life. I just thought it was painful. What's the point? Why do people do it? Now I completely get it. Okay. And I'm like a late bloomer. I'm in my 50s running. So,
wow.
But if you try to just run a little bit, you'll get winded and you go, I don't feel good. I'm sweating. Same thing in cold calling. Same thing as a cold plunge. Do the thing you fear the most. And the reality is cold calling is not going to hurt you like cold plunge or running a marathon. You just have to do it. See, the reward is on the other side of the pain. So if you call cold calling pain, which you're really not, if pain is putting money in your bank account and giving you as many motivated sellers as you can contact, I don't know a better game where you can have a higher contact ratio than doing cold calling.
All right. That's really.
I'm not taking your thunder. You're dead on. So it just, but what you have to do going forward, Gerardo, you got to turn that 20 into 200, and eventually you turn the 200 into 2,000. Because once you do volume and you figure out the game, it's just a game. It's like playing poker. Let me ask you this: if you and me played poker, and you've been playing for the last 20 years, and this is my first hand, you're probably going to smoke me on experience, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be reckless. I'm going to call bluffs. But after about half a dozen hands or a dozen hands, you're going to kill me in it. Same thing with cold calling. If you get a couple thousand calls, you're going to kill the guy who just started out doing it. So most people don't want to get through that initial painful part. And that's the whole problem with cold calling. If you get past it, it's just wild after that. And you're going to look back and go, I can't believe I was scared of that. So stupid. So
Yeah.
if you don't even want to take on cold calling, go find the other thing that you find the most painful thing in your life and just get it done. I hate accounting, guys. I hate it with a passion, but I have to look at these sheets almost on a daily basis. I have to look at P&Ls, balance sheets, all this other stuff. And you have to stay on top of it or it gets out of control. Just like I told you when I was broke, I didn't want to look at my bank account balance. Why? Because it was tiny or red, which means it was negative. Now I look at it regardless. I don't have any of those problems anymore, but I'm just telling you, like when you have anxiety about looking at your bank account, you got to look at like what's going on in your life. It means you're not on the right vehicle to get you where you want. So I appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you about
Wait, can I ask you one more thing?
Shoot, go ahead. You're on here.
Well, yeah, I wanted to like do a small role play because I wanted to because I'm gonna call later today. And I just wanted to do if you could do a quick role play.
I tell you what, if you come on next Monday, I just don't have time for it right now. I have something I got to be to. But
Gotcha.
if you call me back next Monday, I will put you in my tickler file, and I'll be happy to do that. Or
Sure.
I'll be on Thursday. Maybe you can catch me on the free wholesaling. Okay.
Sure. Sounds fine.
Okay. Thanks,
All
Rob.
right.
Bye. Danny, you there?
Hey, Rick.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, I just got a quick question. I was wondering if you can tell me which lists you prefer to call versus text versus direct mail.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you answered this already.
No, I saw your message on there. I didn't have a lot of time. So you want to know specifically, so which market are you in, if you don't mind me asking? Or you can tell me what state.
I'm in Utah, Salt Lake City, Ogden area.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful area.
It is.
So you're doing direct mail. Do you know what type of mail you're doing?
Right now, I'm only mailing probates, but I'm cold calling and texting other lists. But I'm just wondering which is more effective to do, one versus the other versus the other.
Okay, well that's a lot to chew on. So probate's always going to be on its own. It's you do it in-house and you do it on your own. And my recommendation is always to cold call them and send them my probate letter. And that's it. You don't send it out to a mail house or do anything. You're talking specifically about direct mail. What would be the best list if you were going to target it, correct?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm pulling all the the prop stream lists. I'm like right now I'm looking up the code violations in the cities around where I live, and I just wonder if it more sense to text them or cold call them or mail them. I know foreclosures you don't want to mail because they kind of bury their head in the sand kind of thing, but I guess just quick thoughts on those kinds of things.
Okay. So past government lists and driving for dollars, which honestly is only going to give you so many leads. So especially if you're going to do direct mail. With direct mail, the easiest way to do it is I'm all about throwing out a net and pulling it in once. So a lot of people in this business teach keep mailing to the person over and over until they get it. I don't find that very effective at all. And I have the data to back it up. I've done more direct mail than most people in the entire country in wholesaling. The reality is if you're a single operator and say you have a fixed amount of money, which you don't want to go broke doing it either. But let me ask you, what is the budget you're looking to work for if you do direct mail?
I'd say probably a couple $100 a month or something, maybe $300-400
So
a
I'm
month.
going to be honest with you, a couple $100 a month is challenging for direct mail.
Yeah.
Because on average, it's about 53 cents a piece. So you can kind of do the math on it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you the truth. So like, I don't want to lie to you because
Yeah.
the reality is less than 1,000 piece mailer. It's just not effective to do direct mail unless you're going to do extremely customized handwritten letters to like individual leads. That's a whole different story. But when you start talking direct mail, you start talking about bulk and you get a list. And I'm all about narrowing that list down to the highest probability of getting a lead. Now, if you're going to start in small budgets, I would start with like code violations. Probates is a whole separate thing. You don't do postcards with that. And then I would look at evictions, which unfortunately is not a lot. You can look at pre-foreclosures, which is typically not a lot. So what that narrows down, if you do you use PropStream or do you use Batch or any of the services like that?
Yeah, I use PropStream. Mm-hmm.
So PropStream, what you can do is I like to pull up the vacants or like the zombie properties, and I like to narrow down the filters because I know you get 10,000 leads, but past the cold calling, if you're going to do a mailing, you got to have the highest priority, the best list you can do. So the reason I say 1,000, just because mail takes time and it's a 3-month commitment. If you do anything less than 3 months, don't do it. I'd rather you build some money up and wait till you have the money to do it correctly, because you have to have a statistical analysis of the data. So if I send out 200 leads, my phone will stop. I really, it's not. So if you go back to statistics 101, mailing statistically, it's not going to be enough data to see if the market even works. So my minimum budget I usually want people to mail with would be around $1,000. I'm just brutally honest with it, because past that, I don't know if it's actually going to work. Because remember, you're shooting it out there and you're looking for a statistical probability. On average, if you can get a 1.5 to 2% response rate on mail, you did pretty well. So remember, if I did 100, that means I'd probably get 1 or 2 calls, and it's kind of a crapshoot on that. And that's the problem with it. That's why I always try to push people up to 1,000, because 1,000, if you cut it in half, say it costs 50 cents, you could do 2,000 leads with like that. But always work with your budget when you do direct mail first, because then you know what your limitations are. And so, to be full disclosure, I used to have specialty lists, and I would just, I would put a letter together and I would handwrite the person's name in there. And then I would, I paid a girl to hand address the envelopes. But different world, different time. So could you do it less? You know, maybe $500-600, but you're going to be pushing it. But what I would do is the ROS postcard, because it's got the offer built in the postcard. I promise you, nobody in Salt Lake or any of Utah is using my system in there, and it works really well. So at least check out the ROS postcard. You can look at mailingmastery.com. I teach it all for free in there. I teach why we use it, why it's so effective. And then what you could do with that is take your list and get it like, I didn't have a lot of money when I started wholesaling. So my wife used to make fun of me because I'd spend like 7-8 hours. Like, I just kept cutting the list down. Like, nope. That's an apartment number. Nope. And I kept changing it to the point. That's how I learned to build a really good list.
Yeah.
Nowadays, now I'm looking for lists a minimum of 10,000. I actually try to make them bigger than smaller. So you can start with that, and then you can talk to somebody at Open Letter Marketing. But if you have a very, very niched out list, and say you accumulate over 30 days and you get like 600 or 700 really quality leads, then reach out to them and see what they'll do with you. Like they're here in the United States, they're local and they're good people with it. But if you're going to do mailing, you do that, because, and then your commitment, if you get one deal, then okay, then I'm never going to do less than 1,000 a month for marketing for direct mail. Because the reality is, if you start with too small of a budget, it's going to give you a false sense of like, well, I didn't get any phone calls. It didn't work. Statistically, mail takes a minimum amount of pieces to get out. So if you figure about 53, I think it's around 56 cents a piece now. And remember, you do smaller quantities, it's more expensive.
Right.
You can just reverse engineer the math out of it.
Okay.
But
cool.
Yeah, remember, I used to do click-to-mail. I've tried ROS postcard, hands down, is the highest response rate. It'll get you around that 2.5%. So you got to understand that if you only had 500 leads, statistically, if 2% called you 10 people, you got a shot. But remember, just because they call you doesn't mean they're even slightly qualified. Then there's a whole nother round you have to go through them. So what I'm telling you is, maybe you kind of wait and accumulate some of those leads. But like when you do your first mailer, make sure you have the best list you could human. I don't care how long it takes you to do it, because you need to hit off that one list within 90 days. You want to get a deal, so you can hopefully take $5,000 or $10,000 from that, and then you can start a regular campaign. Does that make sense?
Right. Yep. Build up.
So many people try to start with these tiny campaigns, and you're better off served doing the cold calling and the stuff you're doing now, and then building it. And then once you have $1,000 to work with, then you can actually attack a campaign, and you actually have a high probability of getting a deal.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So just work on building that list up. And I'd rather you get a deal from the stuff you're doing now. And then what I do is I take my really good cold callers SMS. And then once they're making money, they're like, Rick, how do I make more money? I go, let me show you a little secret here. Because once you have plenty of money, it takes about 90 days to get a deal from the first day you start from direct mail. It can be sooner, but on average, 90 days. And if you spent $3,000 over 90 days and you made $10,000 or $15,000 in 6 months to a year, I'll teach you how to make $30,000 to $40,000 a month, spending almost the exact same amount of money. And that's how it works. But everybody wants to dive into it and get instant results. And I'm here that you're better off waiting direct mail, because while you're doing this, you don't even know it. You're getting a lot more experience. You're getting more confidence to talk to people, and it's going to actually make you a much better wholesaler. So then when you're spending real money, $2,000 to $3,000, then you know, okay, if I spend $2,000, I can make $30,000. So I do direct mail every month, because if I don't spend my money, I know I'm not going to make the income I want to make. But I've been doing it 20 plus years, and it's extremely predictable. And that's what I love the most about it. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And that's how you want to do it. I would love to tell you to do it, but I love what you're doing now, and you'll get a lot of experience. And then when you do direct mail, you'll be very precise. And then when you get that great lead that calls and you have no competition for it, you'll easily know how to close them, and it'll be highly effective for you. Some people start on direct. Listen, when I started direct mail, I started way too soon because I didn't do cold calling, which I would have done a lot better. It was extremely stressful, stressful. And I like, oh my God, I got to make this work. And here's the best part is a lot of people think direct mail. What do you think on average a good wholesaler that was grossing at least 450, 500 grand a year, what do you think an individual operator would spend a month just on direct mail to get those kind of numbers? I'm just curious. What do you think per month?
I'd say probably between $2 to $5 grand a month. I would say
it's between 3 and the most is 7. It's a sweet spot. A lot of people are like, well, I'll take the 7 and I'll just double. It doesn't work that way. If you take the 2 and you go to 4, you think you're going to double. It doesn't work that way. You have to get really good with your list. And then as you grow, you get to a certain number where you actually got to get people to help you with the phones, because you can overspend your leads. And if you overspend your leads, you're wasting your time.
Right.
Like if you get 46 calls and you can only call like 10 people a day, you're wasting money. And that's why you want to grow into it, just like I teach you how to grow in the cold calling. So why don't you just let it build up a little bit? I'm not here to oversell you on something, but I'd rather you see with effect, because here's the secret with direct mail. You have to commit to 90 days. Anything less than 90 days, you won't get a true statistical snapshot of what's going on in your market. And your first 90 days won't be the best, but it's going to be the most valuable data. And then you can make the adjustment and you go from there. And that data is for you, and you don't share it with anyone because you spend a lot of money on that data.
Sure. Yeah. Because right now I only mail probate. So I haven't really mailed anybody else, but I'm
correct.
Kind of
so you got to have a 90-day commitment, and then you can realistically come up with the numbers. And if you want to do a tighter number than 1,000, just make sure you have a 90. So if I tell you 1,000, you got to commit to 3,000 and not stop, because you can go 3 months and get nothing. And then it just snowballs. It's mail, for God's sakes. Half the time the mail doesn't get delivered in the right place, the right time. So there's like, the smaller your statistical data, your chances get like really dim. So you're talking like 1% to 2% response rate sometimes. If you only do like 100, if that guy doesn't deliver the mail correctly, and that's happened to me before, you're screwed. And you're going to go on the internet and say, direct mail doesn't work. Rick screwed me. I'm just here to tell you, 90-day commitment. So if you're budgeting 1,000 or 800, multiply it by 3 and stick to it. And no matter what happens, keep on your plan. You can make slight adjustments, but and then after that first quarter, you have a lot. Now you have a business, you have real-time data. Because remember, data from 3 or 4 years ago from old influencers is a waste of your time and money. The only data that matters is the last 30 days.
Yeah.
Because direct mail radically changes, but for the most part, it works well. And then you get to the point, Rick goes, if I don't spend my $2,000 a month in marketing, I'm going to miss out on $20,000, $30,000 of revenue. And remember, that's like a 10 times return. where else can you get that kind of return on it? But you got to do the work for it. So I think
Yeah.
you have a good plan. I would stick with that 3-month commitment. And once you do it, go all in.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Cool.
Okay, man. I'll talk to you, Danny. See you. So, okay, guys, we've talked a lot about direct mail. So if you guys want to learn more on how to do this business, go over to freewholesaling.com. I got it there on the bottom. It's a free course me and Zach put out there. It's all for you. And we have a live event coming up October 19th and 20th in Stuart, Florida. If you guys want to learn on how to connect with us, go to Flip with Rick, all inside of freewholesaling.com. We still have some room available to it, but I only work with people that are in Flip with Rick Plus because I like small, intimate crowds that actually want to learn wholesaling. I don't bring in a million guest speakers or anything like that. It's me and Zach the whole time, and we go over your wholesaling, and we like to work with you before and after. So we believe wholesaling is a commitment, and you don't learn it in like a month or two like every other guru teaches it out there. So guys, listen, if you got value from today, do me a favor. Make sure you smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button. It helps me find people that are in distress, trying to figure out wholesaling. I break it down. Listen, it's not easy, but it's definitely not hard. I simplify this process and I stop scaring the crap out of people. If you want to do that, make sure you subscribe and make sure you check out the Flip with Rick channel. You guys know I'm live every Thursday. Me and Zach collaborate on that. And make sure you check out my son's channel on Zach Ginn. Guys, I appreciate you, and I will see you soon.